Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series. To be precise, we have reached episode number 236. That is the 236th trolley stop here at PR from the Heart, here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager here at PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, joined as always each and every trolley stop by my faithful furry friend and forever companion. He reminds me that he is not only my faithful furry friend and forever companion, but he is also my co-host on the Children's Book Spotlight Series and my co-host in this journey called life. He hasn't actually said hello at the very beginning of a Children's Book Spotlight Series episode in some time. So for all of our newer friends and neighbors joining us here in our neighborhood for the first time, this is little Forrest. He is my pride and joy. We hope that all of you are continuing to have a beautiful and blessed 2025 if you are watching this episode in real time. Happy belated Valentine's Day if you are also watching this episode in real time as well too. And it is interesting, amidst what is currently happening in our world, we could really focus on the negativity. We could focus on wondering how come things aren't, quote unquote, getting collectively better. And if we spend our time, it's long since been said that when we take the time to, when we place our focus and our attention on something, the attention and the focus grows. So if we're focusing on the negative, that is going to be amplified. So we always like to do what we refer to as some spiritual science experiments here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Just imagine, play it hypothetically along, if you will, if each and every day you felt, you truly believe in your heart that each day was a blessing, that each day was a gift, no matter what came into your life, no matter if it was perceived as good, bad, ugly, indifferent, in between, because it really is the truth. Life is a gift. Life is not guaranteed. We can be here today, gone tomorrow. And especially when we are taking the next steps to fulfill our mission and our purpose, when we know that we are here for other people, to be of service to other people, while also having a super cool, amazing adventure in our lives, then we can connect to the heart and the spirit that each day is a gift. And if you're saying, John, little Forrest, I'm still needing a little bit of assistance on that, I'm moving through this, that, or the other, well, believe it or not, leave it to a brand new children's book to help us see the way to help us remember that each day is a gift. So we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head over to the official website of our featured guest here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, the link of which we've included in the description below. You can, of course, head on over to Amazon.com as well. That is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, and you can purchase your copy of Each Day is a Gift. It is now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Beaming Books. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Lisl, who is about to join us momentarily, is by leaving that 5-star review. If you feel guided and inclined to do so, of course, leaving a 5-star review after purchasing, reading, and enjoying Each Day is a Gift, that helps her to remember that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. We, of course, I know, little Forrest, I know you were super excited. We, of course, rack up mileage on the trolley, as we always do here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We head from our beautiful city of San Diego, California, across the country to the beautiful state of Wisconsin. And of all places, we're going to a cranberry marsh. Now, I share this because 6.5 years into doing the Children's Book Spotlight Series, almost, when we have the opportunity to connect with authors in different states, different locales, different areas across the country and around the world, that too is a gift. So joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series is children's author Lisl Detlefsen. With the first name and the last name, I always want to make sure with the last name like Masiulionis that I get things correct, because of course this is how kids and parents and educators and librarians connect with you and identify with you as. Thank you for spending some quality time with little Forrest and I, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited to talk about Each Day as a Gift, and I appreciate the work you're doing in the children's book community too.
Thank you so much, because that truly is a gift. Before we continue on with our conversation, shout out to one of the brightest stars in the kidlit community, John Parra. There's a reason why I bring up John Parra. Not only is he a great guy, but I remember years ago, it seems like 10 lifetimes ago, and he even said, John, when we wake up every day, we get to do what we do and make a difference in the lives of children. And we bring families together and classrooms together. How amazing is that? And I can go back to that conversation with John Parr from years ago and say, that truly is a gift. You see how things always come full circle on the Children's Book Spotlight series. For those who are new to our neighborhood, we appreciate, again, you joining us here on the program. And if these messages that we're already sharing, especially not even just the title of each day is a gift, Lisl's brand new children's book, but the heart behind it. If there's someone that you know that is struggling, navigating through whether it be a challenging season in their life or the proverbial divine storm, that is having trouble remembering that each day is a gift, especially if it's a little one that you know of, a little one that's in your family, if you're a parent, a caregiver, a custodian of a child who is struggling to remember, to believe that each day is a gift. One of the many ways you can also pledge your support for Lisl and for us here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. Subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Join the more than 24,000 members of the PR from the Heart family, our loyal YouTube subscribers, and share this very special trolley stop that you are currently enjoying. That is episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. This has been a busy time in your life. So I'm really glad that we have the chance to be able to connect. We'll also, of course, talk about some of your other stories as well, too. But the ultimate origin story on a children's book spotlight series, there's always at least two origin stories. There's the origin story of the children's book that we're sharing and spotlighting on the program. And then there's the origin story of the author. For those who are learning about you and your work for the first time, because I can only imagine, you've been in the industry for a while, but there's people that are like, sounds like you're a great author. Tell me more about you, right? That happens each and every day just in life, because there's how many billions of people that walk the planet, so to speak. So could you share with us where your journey first began to connect to the heart of your origin story? When did you know that a large part of your mission, your purpose, was to indeed better the lives of children, and to be able to do that through the world of children's literature and in writing children's books?
So I grew up loving to read, loving storytelling, loving stories. And I actually, this is really the only job I've ever wanted. So I feel really, really fortunate that I get to do this work. Even as a small child, before I could hold a pencil, I would dictate my stories to my mother, and she would write them down, and then I would illustrate them above. And that's how I made my first books. My mother went back to school when I was in third grade to get her master's in library science. So she was a children's librarian and media specialist in elementary school. But so she's always loved books and always has encouraged me to be a reader. And so I just really loved storytelling. I love that you can make someone feel happy, you can make someone laugh, you can make something feel something. I think books are such a powerful tool for developing and fostering empathy in kids, which I think is so important. So I really have always wanted to write. And one of my favorite things to do when I go do school visits is I share these were my first stories that I wrote in first grade that my mother saved. I probably did dozens of these, but my first grade teacher was actually very intimidating. She was very tall. She had a big beehive kind of hairdo, and she wore these really high heels, and she had kind of this low, stern voice. And I found her kind of terrifying, to be honest. But she will forever be one of my heroes, because she did this thing where in the back of her room, she had these little blank books. And if we were done with our work, we could just go take a book and write and illustrate our own story. She would take her red pen and correct our grammar and our punctuation. She would rate them. I still have not figured out her rating system quite yet, but it was really something that gave me an opportunity to learn to write and to draw and just kind of develop that skill alongside my regular first grade curriculum. So she's kind of one of those heroes who helped me along my way, in addition to my mother, who really fostered that love of storytelling very, very early on.
I love that, because there's times in our life when we're having these beautiful experiences, and we're children, and the experiences mean a lot to us, but as kids, it's a matter of like we have to, we might not necessarily know this at first, but the experiences that are really treasured moments and memories, they'll be filtered into our internal data bank and really
Yeah.
big imprint on our heart. And then you fast forward, how many years and decades later, then you have a conversation with someone. And I remember, this particular teacher in my life who encouraged my gift of writing. And it's important that we have those experiences, because also at the same point, we can, as a child, as a teenager, as a young adult, and into full adulthood, we can experience challenges, difficulties, obstacles, problems, stressors, troubles, and worries. So it's kind of like the opposite of what it is that you had shared. But one of the things that each day is a gift, which we'll be talking about a little bit more in depth, it's helping us to remember that even the challenges, even the difficulties, in some way, shape, or form, there's always a silver lining. There's always some sort of gift that is found within that. Specifically of note, what were some of the challenges and difficulties that you navigated through in your life on your end of things? And what were some of the things that helped you to get through to the other side of those challenges and difficulties?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I think it could be taken in so many ways. One that popped to mind is when you were talking about how the teacher I had who encouraged me, I was really lucky through most of my schooling that when I said I wanted to be a children's book author, no one said you can't do that. I had a lot of really strong support. And then when I got to college, I actually did have a teacher who she ironically taught children's literature. She stood in front of us and she told us, none of you are going to get published. Don't even try. It's impossible to do. And she gave us this lecture, and I remember sitting there and thinking, you're too late. I already made up my mind. But I tell this story because I tell kids all the time, you need at least one person to believe in you, but you also need someone to give you an obstacle, because it's really fun to prove people wrong. It's really fun to be able to say, that's not the voice I'm going to listen to. I know what's in my heart. I know what my talent is. I know what my work ability is. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not going to let your negativity stand in my way to make that happen. So I think that's really important, that kids understand that you just need, maybe one person to believe in you, but you can also use the people who don't.
This goes back to one of the most touching YouTube videos that I've ever watched. If you were a fan of The Muppet Show
Oh,
growing
I
up,
love the Muppet Show.
there is an episode that the iconic Broadway and film star Bernadette Peters hosted.
Oh my
And
gosh.
there's a song, I think it goes something along the lines, if just one person believes in you, deep enough, strong enough, believes in you, long enough, hard enough. And it's this touching song. So it's with Bernadette Peters and Robin, who's Kermit the Frog's nephew. And then
Okay.
the other Muppets chime in. There's Kermit and the rest of the Muppets. They actually played that song at Jim Henson's memorial service.
Oh, wow.
So like there's just, it's technically two separate videos. So all of the puppeteers came on with, holding up the puppets. So
Oh my
everyone's
gosh.
like pouring their eyes out
Oh,
because
I bet.
it's Jim's funeral service. But I always go back to that because I know that during my own journey, like there were people that believed in me. And then there were people that maybe as the result of their own journeys, and maybe they told people that they were told growing up, I don't believe in you, or the odds of this happening are slim in that. So they just kind of passed it along subconsciously, or they were projecting their own emotions or their own feelings, not necessarily knowing that, hey, this little 8-year-old or 10-year-old is actually picking up on this. And this is one of the things that I'm really glad that you're touching upon this, because if we do our part to let children know, now we can't go back and Doc Emmett L. Brown's time machine and kind of change the past, right? But what we can do is for the current generation of children and even adults right now, because we all have the inner child that lies within us. And it's important because, us as adults, we still want to become the highest and best versions of ourselves. So
Yeah.
one of the things I also saw this thing probably years ago on social media, like I think it was like the certain Oprah Winfrey got fired from her job at this age, and then she turned into Oprah Winfrey. Steve Jobs was rejected X number of times. J.K. Rowling was rejected X number of times. So just know the fact we're reminding everyone who's tuning into the program that no matter what it is that you want to do, if you want to be a children's author, if you want to open your own business, if you want to be a father at some point in time in your life, the fact that you have to obviously take the time to put in the work, because the things don't necessarily just happen organically, but you do have to believe. And that's another specific thread that I wanted to be able to touch upon, because educators and parents can look at your book and say each day is a gift. But again, depending upon what someone is moving through in this particular moment, it might be easier said than done.
Yes.
Some people might just look at your book and say, well, wouldn't that be nice? Would that be nice if I could see each day is a gift? Why is it important, you feel, when it comes to teaching our children about believing in themselves and just believing that really anything is possible? It could seem like, magical fodder almost to a certain extent, but why do you feel, maybe now more than ever before, that it's important for us to remind children about the importance of believing in themselves?
I think it's really helpful for kids to know there are limits that exist in the world that we can't change. There are also limits, though, that we put on ourselves. And I think that if there's something you want to do that means a lot to you, or something you want to try, the limit might just be your own mindset, or what you're willing to give up or not give up to make it happen, or just it can really be something as simple as trying to take a second to think, what is the challenge in this? What is holding me up in this? Is this something I can do something about? Because frankly, there are always circumstances we can't control, right? I've been through health battles where I only have, control over this much of this. Or when kids are growing up, they can't control a lot of their environment. They can't control who their parents are or where they live or things like that. But they can control where they invest their time or what their interests are, or, you get good at where you put your time. So if you want to be a writer, you put the time in to write. If you want to be an athlete, you put your time in to practice that. If you want to be a musician, you can have that. You can have some control by investing in yourself, by investing in your time. And I think that's important. But I know that when I look at each day as a gift, I've struggled with anxiety a lot, and I still do in my adult life. Just this last weekend, we were downhill skiing, and I joked that there could not be a worse sport for me because I don't like to go fast, I don't like heights, and I don't like to be cold. And that's what skiing is. You're going up the side of a mountain where it's cold, and you're going to go down, and it's going to be fast. But my kids love it so much, and they want me to be a part of it, that I'm able to overcome those limits by reminding myself the time I have with them at home is fleeting. I can overcome this. I've done harder things than this. So I can overcome this. And they get so excited when I get down the hill. They're so proud of me when I try a hill I haven't done before, or a slightly harder hill. And it reminds me that I can do hard things, and I just have to know what my why is, if that makes sense. So
100%.
So my why in that moment is I really want to show my kids that I care more about time with them than the anxiety I have going through the experience. But I feel like my life has been so much more broadened by what they bring to the table to kind of push me out of my comfort zone sometimes. So I think about that. I was actually thinking about each day as a gift as I was writing this very rickety chairlift with no bar. And then thinking, oh my gosh, I don't like any of this right now. And I said to myself, I've done harder things than this. I know how to get down once I get to the top. These are all things I can do. These were choices I made that I'm fully able to own and then, take into effect. And then I went down a blue hill, which is a little harder than a green hill. And my kids both, they're teenage boys, but they gave me the biggest hugs. It's like, Mom, you did that. I'm so proud of you. So I really appreciate that opportunity to kind of look at, is this a real limit, or is this a limit I have in my head? I feel like that was a very tangential answer, John, but I hope I got to the heart of what you were saying.
As I mentioned in the PR from the Heart Green Room, is the fact that these are the deeper dives. It's really helped, because I can only imagine, again, over the years, the number of parents and grandparents and educators that have come to me and have said, I moved through this fear. This is how I got through this challenge in my life. And it all goes back to the core of believing in themselves, believing that anything is possible, and that even if something does come across your path that may seem daunting or overwhelming, that you've been through X, Y, and Z beforehand, and you overcame that. So
Yeah.
for this next thing that is placed in front of you, you know that you have the strength and the skills and the gifts to be able to move through whatever it is that you are now currently moving through. We are currently enjoying our time with our featured guest here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, children's author Lisl Detlefsen. We are about ready to crack the cover and dive into the pages of her brand new children's book, Each Day is a Gift, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Beaming Books. We encourage all of you once again, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Lisl's official website, which we've included in the description below. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Lisl, if Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, be sure to leave a 5-star review for Each Day as a Gift or any of her other amazing children's books in the process. That helps Lisl to let her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. For all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, you are doing your part to help your students remember that each day is a gift in 2025 and 2026 and beyond. So if you would like to be able to schedule your own author school visit with Lisl, you can, of course, head over to her official website, which again, we've included in the description below, because students across the country, whether it be, kindergartners all the way on up, their minds and hearts are like sponges. So it's really important that we do our part to give these healthy reminders to our little ones, especially right now as we're moving forward into the end of, the end of 2025. We're not fast forwarding that far, the beginning of 2025. And then, of course, for all independent bookstores, children's bookstores, local libraries, as we like to say, those are the pillars of our community. We always say that here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. If you head on over to your favorite local children's or independent bookstore, your favorite local library, if they do not stock their copies of Each Day as a Gift, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. The second origin story of many, but the second origin story that we're specifically spotlighting here today is, of course, the origin story of Each Day is a Gift. Before we talk about the book and we crack the cover and we dive into the pages of the story, could you share with us the origin story of Each Day is a Gift? Because one of the things that I had the chance to really feel, it's always good when you read a children's book and you have that visceral kind of connection to it. It felt like this story was given time, thought, care, consideration, that it wasn't like, I just want to write my next children's book and let's just crank out something that'll sell. I mean, maybe to a certain extent that there has to be some sort of tinge of that, but I feel that you're also very intentional about what you write. So could you share with us the origin story of how Each Day as a Gift came to be?
Yes. So like many authors, I have a couple really tremendous critique groups that are really critical, both in terms of helping support my work and make it better, but also supporting me as a human and a writer. And I feel very blessed to have these two groups. And one of the groups, we weren't even critiquing anything at the time. We were just kind of chatting about our lives and what was going on. And some days are really hard to get out of bed, and some days you're really excited about the work you're doing. And my lovely friend Thelma in one of the groups, she said, my neighbor always says, each day is a present you choose how to unwrap. And I thought, that's really lovely. And sometimes when I'm feeling bad, I kind of wish away the day. I look at something that's coming up down, what's happening over the weekend, or what's happening next month, or when is the next trip I get to take, or the next school visit I get to do, or what is the carrot? And I forget to be thankful and in the moment of the day I already have in front of me. And I thought that was such a great way of picturing that, you don't want to waste each day that you're given, because each one is a gift. And I thought that's a really nice way too of taking something that feels very figurative and making it feel very literal, to picture it as a physical gift. And how neat would that be to write that in a story for children? And then, of course, I immediately thought, well, this has clearly been done before, right? I can't be the first person who's had this idea. So I went to my computer and I Googled Each Day as a Gift as a title. And I was shocked that there wasn't a picture book that existed already in the market with that kind of theme. So I felt like this is a message that I feel like it's really important to share. And this is something I could work a story into and talk about the different figurative and literal gifts we get. Because you have some days are like, what my dad always talks about, getting tube socks for Christmas and how that's not exciting at all. But heck, we do need socks, right? So, I mean, that's a gift we can utilize. And then some days are really exciting. And then there are those days that you don't want that day to happen or something happen that very much does not feel like a gift.
Mm.
And to your point with the working through the story, that was the hardest part to really get right, is what is the message to tell kids when you have the gift of a day that is not what you want? How do you handle that? Because you want kids to build resiliency and understand better days are coming, but you don't want to minimize the hard time they're in that moment either. And you don't want them to feel like they have to hide pain or shove a unwanted gift under the bed, metaphorically. So it was a really that was a part that really took some developing and thinking, and even after selling the manuscript, really working through that in the editorial process too.
I'm glad that you touched upon the thread about why it's important for not only for ourselves, but also for our children, to not bypass our emotions and feelings. Because I
Absolutely.
remember, when I was navigating through challenging moments in my life throughout my journey, there was the part of me that would stuff down the emotions and stuff down the feelings. And, a dear friend of mine for a long period of time, I remember when he said, in order to heal it, you have to feel it.
Yes.
Because then you're able to move through whatever the case might be. But if you're bypassing and trying to, slap some polish on whatever it is that you're moving through, you're ultimately doing yourself a disservice. Also, before we crack the cover and we dive into the pages of Each Day as a Gift, your illustrator Natalia did a wonderful job. And for those who are familiar with the world of children's literature, and then for those who are not, just as a little bit of a refresher, when you are traditionally published, it's not like you can be on the phone with your bestie at 9 o'clock in the morning. How's your day going? How's your cup of tea? How are the kids? Let's talk about the book, right? You have to trust the fact that the illustrator that is chosen is an extension of you, is your second heart, is your third ear, is your fourth eye, that kind of thing. Obviously, if you're self-published, you can have a little bit maybe more creativity and have those experiences with the tea and the coffee and the how's the little ones doing kind of thing. Talk to us about the experience when you knew that Natalia was being attached to this project. Did everything, not even necessarily just live up to your expectation, but this is also a practice in faith and trust. Now being a veteran children's author on your end of things, it had to have been a practice in faith and trust, saying, okay, here's this book. It really means a lot to me. And here's this illustrator coming in, and I trust that she's going to be the right one for the job.
Yes. So as you say, being traditionally published, you often don't have much, if any, contact with the illustrator. Each Day as a Gift is my 10th published picture book, and each one has had a very different journey with how the illustration process worked. With Natalia, well, even before she was attached, when we were talking about the illustration, what kind of style would be with Beaming Books, what was important to me is, how does the illustrator handle light? Because I feel like light is kind of almost a character in the book. How light is used in the illustration process was going to be very important to show drama and happiness and shedding light on things. And it just felt important. And when they pitched Natalia's work, she handles light so beautifully. I just felt like, yes, she's going to do a remarkable job. And one of the tricky bits with Each Day as a Gift, like I have several books like this where there are no characters mentioned. So I would hope that's an opportunity for an illustrator to really run with that and explore that. But I know that's also an added burden, that I'm not giving them as clear a blueprint as to what the story may look like on the page. And Natalia did this gorgeous job of having different vignettes with different kids, and then their stories all kind of weave together visually. So it really adds this beautiful dimension to the story, because she's the one who is responsible in the story for the characters and bringing that to the book. And I think she just did the most wonderful job.
Very much so. take us inside the pages of the story. One of the things that we never like to do here on a children's book spotlight series episode, it's an old vaudevillian term. I'm not even sure where I first picked up on it, but we don't like to give away the whole kit and caboodle because we want to encourage those who are tuning into the program, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars to enjoy their copies of Each Day as a Gift. Could you share with us specifically, not even just what the story is about, but what you want children and parents and families and educators to take away, truly, not even just in the moment, but for the rest of their lives after they read and enjoy Each Day as a Gift?
I hope after they've read the book, they kind of look at the beginning of a day a little differently. So if they're anticipating an exciting day, I hope that makes them feel like they can really lean into this. Like, what a gift of a day. I know we're going to do X, Y, and Z. I know the day has this in store, and I'm really looking forward to it. To just really be present and enjoy it, because my mother always says, this too shall pass, which very much applies. And I always think of that for negative things, but it's true for positive things too, right? If you're having a wonderful day, it's going to be over. So you want to be really in it and really enjoy it while it's happening. But then thinking about that too, in terms of when a day does not go the way you want it to, I try to stop and think, okay, this is an opportunity for something. It's either an opportunity for growth, or it's an opportunity for learning, or it's an opportunity, frankly, just to appreciate that most days aren't like this. So then you have the contrast that makes you appreciate the good days even more. So if it helps readers after the book is over to kind of approach life just thinking about that a little bit more, about what is the gift this day is giving me? What is the opportunity? How am I going to use this gift? And what is the purpose in it? And I think that I know I have to do that. Even having written the book, I think about that all the time. Like, okay, I'm not in the right frame of mind today. Where's the opportunity here to realize what the gift of today is and what that holds for me? And I think that that's, if people come away with that, then I feel like I've done good work with this book.
And the care, as I mentioned, that you gave to the story, because again, I can imagine that, since we're all human beings, right? We're both human yet divine. And at the same point in time, we do experience the contrast, the polarity that every day is not going to be rainbows and gumdrops. So knowing the fact that, again, that each day really is a gift. One of the favorite things that I took away from this, and, utilizing what it is that you had shared, every morning when the sun peaks over the horizon with a yawn and a stretch and a sigh, another day is delivered to you like a gift waiting to be unwrapped and used and loved. And really, life is a matter of perspective, that it's a matter of, if we can take the time, and even if we're 40 years old, or we don't necessarily have to be at trouble, if we can just say, okay, beginning now in this moment, I am going to see each day as a gift and fully embrace it, fully enjoy it, no matter, whatever may come my way. Because then you have more of an appreciation. It's long since been said, and even to the point where it's almost a buzzworthy term, the little things, ... right? And that really is so important. But it's not even just the little things, it's the full experience of the day as well too. And again, like being able to, being in the industry for close to 11 years now, I haven't seen anything shared on this topic in the way in which you're sharing it. There's been books about gratitude and appreciation, but just even the title of the book, because the title is the first thing that people see it. Each day is a gift. I can even envision that there's people whose lives that you're touching, even if they just hear about your book, it's like that reminder, oh, each day is a gift. Now, at the same point in time, we want people to not only just, see the title and say, that's cute. We want people to, of course, enjoy each day is a gift as well, too. One of the many things that we love to be able to do through a children's book spotlight series episode is to provide some useful tips, tools, and strategies for parents, for caregivers, for grandparents, for educators, those who tune into a children's book spotlight series episode, so they can immediately take away whatever it is that they're meant to take away from the tips, tools, and strategies, implement it into their lives, and then the lives of their children, their grandchildren, their students, the children that they're blessed to watch over. It can be easier said than done, right? That each day is a gift, especially if a child is maybe struggling to understand that, especially maybe if they've navigated through early childhood trauma, heightened emotion. It's very easy in this society where if you see a child that's navigating through anxiety, you can say anxiety disorder or depression. We can throw labels on kids like there's no tomorrow, so to speak. But just being able to have these conversations with kids, I feel, are essential. What are some specific ways in which that we as parents and caregivers and custodians of our children can help them to remember that each day is a gift, even if it's something that's slow and subtle and it may take some time? What are some of the things that we can do in this moment and then over time to help our children remember that each day is a gift?
I think what you were saying is really important. And I think a tool in my mind is that coming back to thinking of it not just as a gift, but an opportunity. What is the opportunity to learn or grow in this moment? Like today does not feel like a gift. Okay. Today is not an amusement park gift kind of day, perhaps. What am I learning from this experience, or what is this experience doing for me or doing for others that I can say to myself, okay, there's value in this day in this way that is not something maybe I want, but that I can kind of take as an opportunity for growth, or you can take it as a gift to see something from it. If you look in the book, when we're talking about gifts that are unwanted, the illustrations show that there's a loss happening. Not to give away too much in the book, but you also see that child's being supported. So perhaps the gift in there is to know whatever else happens, you still have love and support from this person who's showing up for you in that moment, even though this doesn't feel like a gift in this day. I think it's helpful to kind of see who your helpers are on those difficult days too, and kind of come back to that. Who's showing up for me in this moment? And what a gift to have that person who loves me enough to show that they care that I'm going through a hard time right now. And you said something I thought was really important too when you were talking about how people handle grief and handle emotion. And a therapist friend of mine says the only wrong way to process grief is not to move through it, like to try to go around it instead. And I think we do that a lot when when kids are upset, they fall or they're crying, and people say, "You're okay." We're very quick to tell kids, "You're okay," as though they don't have the opportunity. Well, if you fell, it's normal to cry, right? If you skin your knee, you're going to cry. It doesn't feel good. And to instead say, "You're going to be okay." Like, "I'm sorry that happened. We can fix it. We can go, clean you up. We can go put a Band-Aid on. You're going to feel better." And I think the way you phrase things really matters in that moment. The other thing I really don't like is when people get into a struggle Olympics, like if you're saying you're going through a hard time, even if it seems minimal, and you point out all the other hardships that are happening in the world for that person, like it's we're having a competition for who makes things harder. I don't think that ever makes anybody feel better. If you're having a hard time to know other people have it worse, that just makes me feel worse. I don't know about you, John, but if you're having a hard day, if I tell you my day is awful too, does that make you feel better? I hope not. So I really do think it's important to give kids the opportunity to feel what they're feeling in that moment while still providing hope that things will get better.
It's creating that healthy balance with being being with whatever it is that the little one is moving through in that moment. And again, like not pushing it down. Like this is one of the reasons why we really resonate with the work of Fred Rogers, the late Fred Rogers, the host of the long-running popular children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was not afraid to have the difficult conversations. And he talked to children where they were at, not above them, like high and mighty, not below them, like he would have been treating them as if, here's Fred Rogers and here's the child. He met them exactly where they were at, while also helping them to remember that better days are on the horizon. And one of the things, this also goes into the fact that, as I mentioned at the beginning of our time together, that 2024 was a very big year for you. It's interesting because your other two children's books that came out in 2024, the one that's almost like a sister companion to Each Day is a Gift is At the End of the Day. And when I was kind of like, learning a little bit more about you and your journey, it's like, aha, this goes back to the intentionality piece, right? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, one of my favorite sources of inspiration, still many years after his passing, is the late beloved spiritual teacher, Dr. Wayne Dyer, multi-time New York Times best-selling author, was referred to as either the father of motivation or the godfather of motivation. And he always encourages people, like the last 5 minutes of the day, as you're in bed, getting ready to sleep, to basically reflect all the great things that happened during the day and the things that you're proud of, even the things that maybe the challenges that you overcome or the things that you're committed to working on, instead of marinating on the what he would refer to as the Morse code, the da 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 da, I'm stupid, or da 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 da, I messed this up today, right? Because then that's what you're going to take into sleep, and then that's what's going to come up first thing in the morning. So talk to us about at the end of the day, because I really feel, I mean, even though the book is a separate standalone story, it's almost like a sister piece. It's almost like a companion piece to each day as a gift in a way.
Yes, it's so much so. I know my agent and I were worried about the titles are enough similar, are people going to get confused? And it's one of those things where they both tell their own story. They both happen to come out in the same year, even though I didn't sell them near each other. And hopefully people can find their way to them and love and appreciate both the similarities where you talk about they are almost like a sister project, and then the differences too. At the end of the day, really came about with me thinking about one of my very childhood favorite books was Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. And so much the fact that just as the main character does, when I have a bad day, I jokingly say to my family, that's it, I'm moving to Australia. Because that's what the main character says, is he's going to move to Australia. And that book really spoke to me as a child because I felt like a lot of books that I consumed growing up were very much about like all the joys of this and the great things, and they were very happy books, and all of that's wonderful. Sometimes it's really hard to be a kid. And I think when we don't acknowledge that, we're doing kids a disservice. Because yes, it's hard to be an adult. It's also hard to be a kid. You're changing height constantly. You're trying to learn new things. You're navigating friendships and relationships in your family, and you're learning to read, and you're learning to spell, and you're learning math. And there's just a lot happening when your brain is forming. And that book really spoke to me that sometimes things are not going right. And I was thinking about all of the things you could list when, things get difficult. And even from a perspective of a parent, I have a friend who talks about how there's like two shifts. You have your work day, and then you have the after school to bedtime shift. But kids have that too. They have their whole school day, and then often they have all these activities afterwards that we're trying to cram in before bed. That's a big full day, and it can get to be a lot. But then, as you were saying, there can be little things that happen to help turn the day around. And I know for me, I really loved that bedtime routine with my kids when they were small, that even if the day was difficult or hard, to make sure we had a nice bath time and then reading together and kind of getting in the right frame of mind to try to get sleep and have a nice moment together. So at the end of the day, it was really exploring that. All the ways your day cannot feel like it's going right, and the little things that can be irritating or frustrating, or even big things that can feel difficult and frustrating, like missing someone you love, or when you can't find the last puzzle piece to your puzzle. You finish the puzzle and you can't find the last piece. That's frustrating. And then the things that can kind of bring your day back on track, the little things that make it better, like, just like little Forrest makes your day better, because that's a little thing that kind of brings you joy, or how bread smells when it's baking is a little thing that can bring you joy. Or I always love riding my bike in the fall and the way the leaves crunch under tires. And I put that in at the end of the day, because just that sensory experience just makes you feel a little bit better. So that's very much what that day is about, is how little things can really set you off the rails, but little things can bring you back too.
And I'm also glad you mentioned and reminded us once again about the little things and the simple things, because this is also a little tip of the cap to your other new children's book that came out, Still There Was Bread. And the connections that we have, I know that still my guiding light in many respects is my grandmother's. I mentioned to you previously before we started our conversation, she passed in the summer of 2013, and she was very much my rock in life. And when she passed, on the surface, it looked like it was the most traumatic thing, the most difficult thing that I had experienced. And maybe to a certain extent, there's still some truth to that. But over time, I was able to learn and to connect with her more, even though it wasn't necessarily in the physical the physical plane, so to speak. And I have that much more appreciation for all the times that we spend together. So necessarily when I would go to my grandmother and grandfather's house, necessarily it wasn't bread, but I remember she was always stocked up on sour cream and onion Pringles. And then also I think one of the delicious treats back in the day, Planters made things called cheese curls. So they were like,
Oh yeah, I remember
yep,
those.
yep. So it was those simple things, but it was the time that was spent. So while we're also, of course, talking about each day as a gift, in addition to at the end of the day, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and our fellow shining stars to also check out Still There Was Bread, published by our friends and neighbors at HarperCollins. We are beginning to wind down our time, excuse me, with our featured guest here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, Lisl Detlefsen. She is, of course, the creator of the brand new children's book, Each Day is a Gift. We encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, to head on over to Lisl's official website, which we've included in the description below. If Amazon.com is your preferred vehicle of your choosing, we hold up the 5 fingers because that's the friendly reminder of the 5-star review for Each Day as a Gift. If you feel guided and inclined to do so, because we want it to be organic, we're not here to force 5-star reviews down your throats in any way, shape, form. Has to be organic. Got to totally resonate with the story as well, too. So if you do, after purchasing and reading and enjoying Each Day as a Gift, if you feel guided and inclined to leave the 5-star review, feel free to do so. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and they do not stock their copies of Each Day as a Gift, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here in episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. And again, all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, remember that there's a lot of gifts in 2025, but even if you're watching this episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series in 2026 or 2027, Lisl has a very important mission, and it is still not complete. That is our way of saying that you can connect with her to schedule your author school visit for your students, because it's really important, and we're not even just saying this, it really is important that students today, because they are the future of tomorrow, when they know that each day is a gift, we're doing our part to create a generation of children that have stronger mental health, stronger resilience, stronger well-being, and if anything, they can enjoy life that much more. The Chewies that we always close out every Children's Book Spotlight series episode, we remember, we already mentioned his name once or twice, but the late Fred Rogers. And during his time on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, also when he spoke across the country, whether it be college commencement speeches, talks, I remember when I did some research on Fred at the Fred Rogers Institute in Latrobe, Pennsylvania, I actually saw how he did a talk in front of the American Library Association in 1991. Just the little small things. I remember that day was a gift when I first learned that. But most notably when he received his Lifetime Achievement Award at the Daytime Emmy shortly before he passed from stomach cancer, he helped us to remember, and he always kept the time whenever he mentioned this, Lisa, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute, he encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. And that was his way of simply saying, remember those people that have come across your path that have helped you to remember that each day is a gift, that help you to remember that you are a gift as well, too. I know that you had mentioned a few important key people along your way earlier in our time together today. If you would, this is kind of like a full circle moment. If there's anyone else that you would like to share that has helped to love you into being, Lisa Detlefsen, who would those people be that you would like to publicly recognize here in episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series?
You know, I mentioned my mother, who has been absolutely instrumental in my career in every way, from start to finish. But my dad has also been a huge support of my work, and very much both my parents love me into being. And it felt very appropriate then that my 2 fall books, Still There Was Bread and Each Day is a Gift, were dedicated, one to my mother and one to my father, because they really did love me into, I love that phrase, love me into being. My husband also has been an unbelievable support, and we are one of those unusual couples that we met very young. I was 17 when we met, and so we've been together more of my life than we haven't been together. And he's been so supportive of the work that I do and the writing that I do, and shaped who I am as a person as I've grown into adulthood. And I'm so very thankful that we've had the opportunity to grow together. I remember when we met, I had people say, it's too bad you met so young. And so that was a downside, that you should meet someone to spend your life with when you're finished growing, which is such a weird thing to say, because are we ever done growing as people? I would hope not. And I think because we met younger, we've had the opportunity to, as I said, grow together. I certainly never expected to live on a farm. I was planning to live in New York City. So I really took a hard detour to live in central Wisconsin on a cranberry farm. But there's been so many gifts brought to my life by getting to live here that I feel so fortunate for. We were talking about teachers who've had a huge role, and my second grade and my fourth grade teachers specifically were also incredibly supportive of my writing, such that when my very first book came out, I had a book launch party in my hometown, and they came to celebrate with me, and my fourth grade teacher brought me a letter I'd written in fourth grade to her saying how I was going to be a New York Times bestselling author and I would always remember her, and she gave me the letter back. And I get teared up every time I talk about this. To have that kind of support and have teachers who cared about me that much, again, back to things that are gifts. What a gift to have someone save a letter you write when you're a kid because they think what you're doing matters and what you're going to do is going to matter. So
Thank you for sharing those individuals, because it's long since been said, and I'll paraphrase Fred's words, that whether those people are near or far, whether still with us walking this earthly plane or shining down from heaven, they're smiling, knowing the indelible impact that you've made on many, that you're continuing to make on many children, parents, and families and educators. And as we like to say here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, those who love great children's books. And then, in addition to being huge buffs of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, we're also huge Disney buffs here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. There's something about the Disney magic that in many respects, it helps us to remember that each day is a gift. The Disney magic helps us to remember that we have the ability to bring to form and shape our dreams, our desires, our goals, our ambitions, that we have the ability to fulfill our own wishes. And in many respects, we have the ability to help those in our life, whether it be family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, clients, random passersby, fellow neighbors, that we have the ability to help them bring to form and shape their dreams, their desires, their goals, their ambitions to fulfill their wishes. We go back to the year 1992. It was a great year. With each passing year, it seems like it's so further in the rearview mirror. But we remember the late Robin Williams. We remember how he voiced the genie of the lamp in Disney's beloved animated classic, Aladdin. We have a little segment that we like to call Three Wishes. Tried and true with us almost since day one. We had this genie lamp with us wherever we go. It's racked up a lot of mileage in addition to the trolley here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You have given freely from your heart for many years to the world of children's literature, to the kidlit community, to children, parents, families, and educators. So now it's your time to receive, Lisl. Now these wishes, that you're being given three wishes is what I'm trying to share and communicate. These wishes, they can be for yourself, they can be for the children of the world, they can be for yourself at the same point in time. I think the only automatic disqualifiers, you can't make someone fall in love with you, and you can't ask for more wishes. Those are the only automatic disqualifiers.
that feels fair. That feels fair.
Yes. So what would those three wishes be?
Oh my goodness, this is really tough. I wish I had as I'm thinking about, I love that we have so much in common when you were talking about the Muppets and Fred Rogers, which I grew up with. And then I don't know if you can see, I have Jiminy Cricket on my shelf.
Love that.
Since the time I was very small, When You Wish Upon a Star would make me cry.
Aw.
And I got to see the Wish. Did you ever get to go to Disney when they had the Wishes Night Spectacular and Tinkerbell would fly down to the castle?
I have not. No.
Okay, this was years ago, and you're supposed to close your eyes and make a wish. And because I'm a big kid at heart, I closed my eyes and I wished to be a published author. And I'm not kidding. The next, like a month and a half later, I met my very first editor of the book that I'd been shopping for 10 years. So I have a very strong love spot in my heart for Disney and for Jiminy Cricket. But that's going a little tangential from your question of the three wishes. So I think one wish would have to do with agriculture, because I grew up off a farm, not understanding where my food came from at all. And I think I would want to use one of my wishes that everyone on earth could understand and appreciate where their food comes from. And I don't know if that sounds too big or too small in the realm of wish making, but when I met my husband, I became very aware of how hard it is to be a farmer, the skill set it takes to be a farmer, and all that goes into growing the food for the world that we do. And I thought, wow, and that's partly why I write a lot about agricultural topics, is because I've come to understand just how important it is to appreciate. Hopefully, we all get to eat every day. We should be eating every day, if at all humanly possible. I would love kids to have what they need to eat, but also understand where their food comes from and the journey that it takes from seed to their table. So that's how I would use one wish. Selfishly, my author heart would love to use a wish. I've been working on a novel that's very close to my heart for a long time, and I'm published in picture books, but not in novel writing. So I think if I could use one wish for my author heart, it would be to see this novel of my heart make it into the world in a published form. Is that okay, John? I know that's not as altruistic for the
That's
world.
okay.
Okay. All right. The third wish, I think, would be to have every kid have someone believe in what they really want to do the way I did. Again, I come back to that. I never had someone in my formative years say, children's book author, you can't do that. And I think about how that could have shut me down as a child. I had someone say you couldn't do that, as I told you at the beginning of our time together, but I was already in college. I'd already made up my mind. So I would hope that every kid could have the opportunity to have someone really believe in their truest heart's desire the way I did. Because I really appreciate that I didn't have someone say, you can't do that, until, as I said, it was too late.
Those wishes are very powerful, and I appreciate you sharing and communicating those with us. It has long since been said that when one's wishes come from one's heart, they also have a greater chance of coming true. In addition, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature, it is similar to, we're kind of like pop culture buffs currently, and then back in the day, if you remember in the 80s and 90s, the beloved movie critic duo Siskel and Ebert, when they loved a movie, they gave it 2 thumbs up. Well, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature is when little Forrest proudly gives 2 paws up for a brand new children's book that we are sharing here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. Little Forrest and I, leading into our time together today, had the opportunity to read and enjoy each day as a gift. And of course, this is part of Little Forrest's contribution to the program, in addition to looking all cute as a bug. Earlier in our time together today, Little Forrest proudly gives 2 paws up for each day as a gift. Again, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature. Little Forrest, thank you for all of your contributions to this particular trolley stop of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Raise your hand if you have had fun on the program today, on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We see hands up from Lisl, hands up from myself, paws up from Little Forrest, hands from the little ones on screen. As we like to say, that means mission accomplished, job well done. When we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. But fear not, there are many more magical trolley stops to come here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. If this message has inspired you, the messages that we have shared within the pages of each day as a gift, if anything that you can take away from this program is that anthem, that each day is a gift, each moment within the day is a gift. But if you're still finding some challenges in your life, be kind and gentle and compassionate with yourself. And one of the many ways you can help out a fellow neighbor in need that may be moving through some challenging moments or that proverbial divine storm, this also helps to be able to pledge your support for us here at the Children's Book Spotlight series, as well as for Lisl at the same point in time. Share this very special trolley stop that you have been enjoying. That has been episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Join the more than 24,000 members of the PR from the Heart family, our loyal YouTube subscribers. And again, share this very special trolley stop that you have been enjoying. That has been episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, because you never know how that message of each day is a gift, these messages that we have been sharing here today, can impact someone in the process. But as we mentioned, there are more magical trolley stops to come on forthcoming editions of the Children's Book Spotlight series. We are counting down to a very big benchmark this year. The 250th episode of the Children's Book Spotlight Series episode is just in the not in the rearview mirror. It's this way. It's not this way. It's this way. If you are a children's author, if you are a middle grade author, and would love to share your inspiring story in the release of your new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Instagram, Facebook, and X, all at PR from the Heart. We also want to give a little tip of the cap to one of our dear friends and neighbors. We mentioned Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. There's a reason why we have an even stronger connection. If you look above my shoulder over here, the sister program of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You remember him and you love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We know him and we love him as David Newell. David Newell joins me each and every month on the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, which we are proud to share has become one of the most requested children's book review programs online for parents, for educators, and for librarians across the country and around the world. David and I, we take the time, as a little tip of the cap to his character, Mr. McFeely on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. We deliver heartfelt reviews from the newest children's books from the shining stars in the kidlit community, both from the world of published children's literature and self-published children's literature. If you are a children's author and would love for David and I to deliver a heartfelt review of your new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the program, you can head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or connect with us on social media. We are counting down to the 4-year anniversary of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast in just a few trolley stops from now. And of course, 2025 is going to be, it already is, a banner year for children's authors across the country and around the world. Each book that is coming out truly needs to be shared with as many people as possible. And we have been blessed and fortunate. One of the biggest gifts that we have been given is the opportunity to be of service to some of the top children's authors in the world of children's literature, ranging from the iconic Sharon Lois and Bram, Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, Skinnamarink Doo, We Love You, to Catherine Roy, to John Para, to those authors whose journeys are just taking flight. If you are looking for dedicated PR publicity support for the launch of your new children's book so that you can share your message with more parents and educators and librarians through the media, if you are needing assistance in facilitating a book media tour in a city of your choosing or a national book media tour, head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, schedule your courtesy connection call. Let us see how we can be of service to you. One final time, each day is a gift. It is now available courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Beaming Books. As we always like to say here on the program, who wouldn't want to get their book published by Beaming Books? It's one of the most heartfelt names of any publisher that is publishing books still right now at this particular point in time. We like to call it the sister companion, even though it's a standalone book in its own right. At the end of the day, courtesy of our friends and neighbors at Knopf, that is Knopf, that is an imprint of Penguin Random House. And then, of course, Still There Was Bread, published by our friends and neighbors at HarperKids. Again, you can head on over to Lisl's official website. Keep the conversation going post Children's Book Spotlight Series. We provided her social media platforms in the description below for all educators, teachers, principals, and librarians. If you want to schedule and facilitate your very own author school visit with Lisl, you can head on over to her official website. Again, we've included that in the description below. And again, especially if Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, be sure to leave a 5-star review if you feel guided and inclined to do so for each day as a gift, or any of Lisl's other amazing children's books. And again, if you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and they do not stock their copies of Each Day as a Gift, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about it right here on episode number 236 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We want to thank you because you are a gift. All of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars. Nearly 6.5 years into doing this program, we are very grateful and fortunate to share these inspiring stories of the shining stars in the world of children's literature with all of you. So thank you for your continued support of PR from the Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, for your continued support of children's authors and illustrators. both picture book and middle grade, that are doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and those who love great children's books, including Lisl, who was very kind enough to give us some of her free time today, for your continued support of the pillars of our community, local libraries and children's and independent bookstores. But above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One final time, we've mentioned his name once or twice, probably more than that. We feel his spirit each and every single time that we sit in this chair, that we're in our studios, and we do one of these trolley stops, a children's book spotlight series episode. We remember the late Fred Rogers. Did you know that Fred Rogers weighed 143 pounds during his entire natural adult life? You might be saying, John, little Forrest, Lisl, why in the heck are you mentioning? Forrest is very animated right now. He is reminding me Mr. Rogers weighed 143 pounds for a reason, because there was one letter in on, there's 4 letters in love, and there's 3 letters in you. That was his way of reminding us that he knew what he was doing. He reminded us of our inherent worth, of our inherent value, and he also helped us to remember his time on the neighborhood. And each and every time that we saw him and that we felt his presence and his spirit, he helped us to remember that each day is a gift. So it's a little tip of the cap to little Forrest, who was very animated, in addition to Lisl, and a little tip of the cap to Fred Rogers. We share our favorite 3 numbers of 243 because there's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. We see you. Not only we see you and we see your inherent value and your inherent worth, but we are reminding you that you are loved, that you are special, that you are whole, that you are healthy, that you are complete. We like you, that we love you just the way that you are. So for little Forrest, for myself, John Masiulionis, and for a featured guest on the Children's Book Spotlight Series, Lisl Detlefsen, thank you again for spending some quality time with us here on the program today. Keep on rocking it in 2025. Remember that each day is a gift. Sometimes you might have to look very closely to truly understand that, though. But again, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now. You want to say goodbye, little Forrest? There you go, little guy. Bye-bye.